Guys, in my previous video, I explained the Kubernetes architecture, and in this session, I'm going to explain how to deploy your application Kubernetes cluster. So, to deploy your application in Kubernetes cluster, it should be wrapped in a pod. It's a Kubernetes object, and this is a basic object in the Kubernetes. And these pods are scheduled in nodes actually. So. Um, and pod will be having its own IP address and storage and pod name, and it can have more than one container in a single pod. And so in this demo I'm going to deploy Nginx application in my local Kubernetes clusters. So I've installed Minikube. You can install it's a one node cluster for local development and testing. So this is the link for that Minikube. And let's go see what is the pod object looks like. And if you see this is a YAML file, and this is Kubernetes pod object actually. So API version, what kind of object is this? It's a pod. There will be a different kind of objects in Kubernetes, like pod, replication controller, replica sets, or deployment, or service, or ingress. A lot of objects are there, and basic one is the pod. So here I'm mentioning a name and label for this pod, and the spec field, they have containers. So I'm just specifying the Nginx. This is the container image name, which will be pulled from Docker Hub and creates the pod and makes it run actually. And let's go and create this Nginx, deploy Nginx, and this is the way to create or deploy apps in Kubernetes. So it's created. Let's see what is happening. It's already up and running now. And how do I access this? For this, we have a service object which should be created, and this is one more kind of Kubernetes object. Here I mentioned name and app selector actually. So in my pod, I declared name label as so here I mentioned my engine app key. Labels are like a key value pairs. So key is app and value is my Nginx. So that will be mentioned here in the service app, and whenever a request comes to the service, it will route the request to this application or pod actually. So let's go and create the service. So it's created. Let's see the service. So it's created in default namespace actually. This is the one. So this is each service will have its own IP address, and so I mentioned as a node port. So it's created node port for this. I'll explain more about the service and node ports, cluster IP, ingress, load balancers in next video actually. And currently, I mean, for now, just imagine this is a access point for your application actually. Let's get the URL for this. Um, Minikube gives a nice way to get the URL for this service. So back this. So it's, I think I can go to, so this is the Nginx welcome page. So that means it's running up and running in the cluster, and that is the basic deployment. And And as I said, in the we can have more than one container. So I have a simple application uh, which have a simple application, Python application, which talks to Redis DB, and I'm deploying a Redis and just simple application one pod itself. So this is the simple app. It's a Flask-based app actually. So here it talks to Redis and stores the how many hits are there. This is a simple application. Okay, let me go and deploy that. So you can it just I'm watching here the pods are created or not. It's Python Redis pod is up and running with two containers, and in the first pod it's running one container one by one, means one container is running in the one pod. So here two containers running in the pod actually. And let's go and create the service for this. And get the IP address of that. MQ service and Python service, and get this. See, this is first time I'm meeting, two, three times, four times, five times. So this content is stored in a Redis. So this demonstrates two containers can also be deployed in one pod actually. So and then if you go here and kubectl get pods, you'll get the number of pods here. If you delete this pod, right, it will go off. But in real applications and enterprise applications, if something goes wrong or Kubernetes kills some pod, then the availability of the application go down actually. So for that purpose we have a replication controller. This is a controller which makes your application available all the time actually. So if you specify the replicas, number of replicas, like how many number of instances if you want to have. Okay, let me show that. My app or see. So as I said, Kubernetes have different kind of objects, right? And this is one more kind of object, replication controller. Here I'm specifying the replicas 3, that means number of instances for this app. So I'm having a simple my app which just displays the hello world actually, and I push this to a Docker hub actually. When you create the this object, it will deploy, it will pull the container image from the Docker hub and create the pods. So let's go and create the replication controller. My app or C. So it's created, so you can see that three pods are running. Okay, and now how to access that actually. For that you have to have a service for that actually. And let go and pick the service. What is that? My app service. Let's see, hello world is displaying actually. Mm. Sorry for this section. Copy, paste. Yeah, this allow all application is up and running, and with uh, more instances. And if you play, you can see this actually. So now these three are running, right? The three ports are running. If you delete one port, right, let's see what will happen. I'm building this pod. See, this is it's terminated, but it's the replication controller already created one more pod, because the availability of for this application is three instances at any given point of time actually. So that is how the application controller will help on this. And so that is about application control, and this application controller is a very old way of doing uh, uh, availability of the application in Kubernetes. But recent one is a replica set, which is also low level object. Replications controller and replica sets are two different uh, controllers, and the replica set will be used in a deployment actually. So deployment is one more Kubernetes object which provides the declarative updates for your pods and replica sets. So Kubernetes ensures that a cluster maintains a desired set of applications. So if you want 10 replicas, 10 instances of your application, so Kubernetes ensures that how many instances you require actually. Let's go and create a deployment. First, delete what we have here. Delete RC, my app, capital get RC. Okay. See how it's terminating the containers, and delete the service as well. Okay, now my app deployment. So this is one more kind of object controller, I would say, in the Kubernetes, and API was in the apps v1 kind deployment, and so many things here. Here replicas 3, and container is my container which is in Docker Hub. Let me show you that. Docker Hub here. This is my profile and my app. So I have two versions of this app actually. And first I'm deploying version 1. Okay, let's go and create this deployment. So 3 instances are up and running, and let's go and create service for that. And get the service URL, my app service URL. Okay, let's do one thing. Store this in a variable liquid service, my app service URL. So if we call it, okay, yeah, call it, continuously call it. I think I keep this one. So it's calling the app actually. So let's do it for 1 second. Sleep. App is so we are able to access the application, and I want to do more here actually with the deployment. So we can deploy the second version with this command. And I just want to pause if deployment. I would just want to. Okay, let's scale it more. I have 3 replicas, right? So scale it for 10, and here you can see the number of replicas here actually. See, it's 7 more are creating actually. So then you can see the number of, yeah, let's run it like this, and here you can see the deployment. So 10 up to date, 10 available, 10. So this is how we can see the deployment as well. And now I just want to upgrade my application to next version, and while deploying, upgrading, I can deploy very minimal for testing in production as well, like rolling update. So I can pause the deployment. So there are very number, if you're able to see the very limited number of requests are going to version 2 here, and you can see the deployment status of second version deployment status here. So waiting for app to roll out 5 out of 5 requests updated actually. So only 5 updated. This way you can do canary release, but it's very basic canary release actually. And I just want to resume the deployment. So it's created second version. You can see now all the requests are going to version 2. So what features can have from the deployment object is like you can scale the application, you can deploy easily, and you can roll out and roll back as well. So these are the features of deployments. That's why most people use deployments instead of replica set or replication controller. These are low-level objects like pod, replication controller, and a replica set. Hope you got some information on basic Kubernetes objects, how to deploy an application. Thanks.